The most mid-experience in school are school field trips. Have you ever been greatly disappointed by the debauchery that takes place on these trips? We all did, dealing with these things on school field trips. It all begins with a teacher making an announcement saying that we're going on a big 3-day trip in 2 weeks on Friday, and everyone's hyped. We're not gonna have Mrs. Flanders, and we get to miss a day of school. But as the papers get passed around and you read the slip, your eyes finds itself wandering to the bottom of the page, and your heart stops, as the cost to go is $300, and you're like, why does this cost so much? As the class devolves into a bigger chaos than SpongeBob's brain did after having a factory reset, and the teacher tries to calm down the class and says the reason why it's so expensive is because we have to accommodate our expenses. Bruh, look at me right now. If it's between me paying $300 to be stuck being supervised by my school for 3 days, or not coming in on that day, and not losing my weekend also, I think the decision is quite easy to make. Like, who's paying for this? This is what happened for my middle school graduating class. They planned an end of the year trip to Pennsylvania for 3 days. That was $350 to go, and that was just for that trip. Even for regular normal trips, they have us dropping literal loans to go. Yeah, I don't know who on the school staff is like, wow, wouldn't it be fun for our students to pay a small loan for a mid-trip? Absolutely criminal. But now comes arguably one of the worst parts about school field trips. We have to go on the school bus. Let me say this lightly. School buses are cursed. First, we have to talk about the space. Schools really do have us cramped up together, sometimes even 3 students per 1 seat, like it's a New York City train, and then say this trip is going to be enjoyable. Meanwhile, I'm trying to hold myself in the most uncomfortable position while not crashing into the other kids' space for the next 45 minutes to even hour of my life. No wonder kids complain about being sorer than Jay after being violated by Nauticon's crew. Next up, we have how they look. School buses share 3 things with the dirtiest places in the world: the cramped spaces from a New York City bus, the floors from the school bathroom, and the smells from the boys' locker room. I swear, after going on the school bus, you must have noses made of bedrock to endure such stench for that long. But arguably the worst thing about the rides on the bus had to been how loud the buses can get. Teachers are really expecting 25 to 30 kids all crammed up together in a space twice as big as the school bathroom to not talk as loud when you can't even hear yourself over the sound of the engine and the sound of 20 other kids trying to talk, and we're not even considering game sounds, music, and other noises that make it harder to hear. And then they go on to threaten us with detention, or even worse, sending us back to school if we didn't stop talking, which has actually happened to me. One of the worst experiences ever. Now, I can guarantee that you've experienced all the things I'm about to show you that contribute to school trips being mid most of the time. Let's speed run through them. Field trips to the zoo. Somehow there's a place even more smellier than the school bathroom, with animals that live in bigger prisons than us. Art museums are incredibly boring trips, but can produce some of the funniest shenanigans to take place in the history of time. This whole trip that I'm thinking of could be its own story of itself, just because of what happened, but I promise we did nothing wrong. Seeing another school and immediately start flipping them off, trade insults, start beef, and fight. I was always like, why are we doing this? This makes no sense. Having annoying moms on the trip are the absolute worst thing that can make a mid-trip bad. They ruin any of the fun you're trying to have. Then we have not having any money to buy anything from the gift shops. That was me. And finally, movies. Probably the best one, because even if it is a bad movie, I was just on my phone most of the time in the back of the movie theater. As I said in the beginning, school trips could be the most mid-experience school has to offer. But what happens when a school trip goes bad? I remember back in 3rd grade, we went on a trip to the Empire State Building. But one problem then emerged. As you know, the Empire State Building is larger than Doofenshmirtz Tower, so it took us a long time to get to one of the top floors. And while trying to get there, we had to wait on the floor most of the time. And combining that with the sun and the absolute motion sickness you would get if you ever looked out of the window, some kids, like a good friend of mine, we'll call him Frederick, got so sick and lightheaded that they threw up multiple times. And then we have the trips that it just rains. Rain by itself delays or cancels so many trips that I can remember, but no trip stands out to me more than my 8th grade field day. It was sunny all the way till we got to the park. Then just about 3 hours in, everyone was caught off guard as it started to pour. Luckily for your boy, me and my friends bought a tent and we're just vibing, playing board games and watching YouTube while watching everyone else take cover. But I think one of the most painful school trip experiences is getting separated from your friends. as before you leave school, the teachers create the most goofy odd groups that you'll ever see. Again, I thought this was supposed to be enjoyable, but now I have to deal with Marcus and his attempts to break the sound barrier with his screeching. And then when you get back from the trip, the teacher pulls out the biggest surprise when everyone is absolutely worn out, a whole 3-page packet asking actual questions. At this point, why even go? My favorite school trip experience, however, had to be back in 7th grade, when my school decided to have a field trip to the Apollo Theater in Harlem. But one strange thing happened. Nobody wanted to go. So, my good friend, we'll call him Alan, he had the brightest idea of asking all the boys to go on this trip since nobody else was gonna go. And then the day came, and we were the only ones to go on this trip. And all of us were hyped, as we didn't have to have our Monday classes, and the best part of all, we had the school bus all to ourselves. And being on the bus by yourself with your friends is just a mood that you have to experience. All day, we were just having fun, sitting in the back of that theater and just watching YouTube. An actual enjoyable experience. What did you think of school field trips, and what would you like to see next? Consider leaving a like and subscribing, and I'll see you next time in the sanctuary.